Well, I'll go ahead. It's 12:01. I'll go ahead and kind of get us kicked off here. Um, if y'all will, first some housekeeping stuff. If you will rename yourself as to where you are in the process, that is exceptionally helpful to us to know who we're talking to at the time. Looks like we got a whole bunch of liaisons today,
Yeah.
and a couple of declared and working on image evaluation. So there's Lawrence and Rick. Um, I know what Guy is. I know Vanessa. Oh, Don. Ed. Hey, Don. How are you?
I'm Kentucky.
Good. 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 Hopefully, we'll have a few more join us. I'll go ahead and click off the share screen here. Um, So, how this usually works is we will open it up to questions here in a minute from the candidates. We'll be glad to work on answering those questions. I will be monitoring the chat as soon as I get it turned on for any questions that you type in there. Chuck Odom usually will reach out on the internet or usually to the PPA website for any resources that we might have that come up in our discussion. So he'll put links in there. Hopefully he's able to do that today. Last week he had some. Was recovering from surgery. So are you okay with that, Chuck?
Yes, I can still manage that.
You can still manage that. Awesome. Thank you, sir. All right. So, and we have a good number of CPP liaisons here. Steve Davis is back. Welcome back, Steve Davis. We missed you last week. You did a
I
great
thought we
job
weren't.
the week before.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris.
Yep. And we got
I
Deb
thought we weren't
Davis. Hi,
meeting last
Deb
week.
Davis from
Go ahead.
Detroit area.
Hello.
Don't forget to rename yourselves, guys. That's extremely helpful.
How do you do that on the phone?
On the phone. Good question. Anybody working on a phone? I think you have to slide to where you're muted, and then there's a menu icon up top. Maybe I don't know. I'm not positive about that. I don't use the phone too much with Zoom. I have used a little, but usually I'm traveling and I'm not even looking at the phone.
Well,
Hey, Chris,
Yes, sir.
can we give a round of applause to Rick Ross? He found out yesterday he passed the written exam.
oh, excellent.
Good job, Rick Ross. On to the next step, and we'll. I did see that. Come think of it, I did see that on the Facebook page. Um, so yeah, all those that are moving on, getting ready. Uh, Skip's been doing his Sunday evening class. I'm doing my Sunday evening class, and we're going to have a couple tests live here in Michigan. Getting back to live in-person tests, I'm really kind of excited about that. And hopefully that's going to happen around the country with more people getting vaccinated and numbers coming down. That's going to be kind of exciting. So
Yeah, I've got one that's taking a test on Thursday, proctored though.
mm-hmm. Right, right. So we'll go ahead and open it up. Any of our candidates have any questions that are burning desires to get answered, came in with the intent of getting this question answered? And the
Go
crickets are
ahead, Rick.
roaring.
Rick had his hand up.
Oh, hey, Rick, go for it.
All right, thanks, Chris. Thanks, Skip. I did have a question about the placement of the lights for the image evaluation. According to the instructions, and I'll just give one of them as an example, but it said to place the fill light 99 inches from the base of the mannequin. And my question is, what defines the placement of the light? Is that the center of the light stand? Is that the where the lens is on the light, or does it just not matter and it's about 99, and any of those are fine.
What's your best guess?
I was guessing the middle of the light stand. And the reason being, it's bouncing off of an umbrella. So that was the other thing is, is it the total path of the light?
It is not in the written instructions. So it is left to your, in my opinion, is left to your judgment because of that. And how I am used to reading lighting diagrams and writing lighting diagrams, you are assuming correct. To the center, the center post of a light stand is a good place to use as a standard to measure from. Usually that's because also that's the center of the actual light fixture itself. So the vague answer to the question is there hasn't been a written instruction as to where to measure from. So
Okay, thanks.
yep.
I would agree with that.
All right, thank you.
And I think there's almost probably not a specification on it because it would vary from brand to brand,
Mhm.
right? They did get specific about the 30 to 34 inch umbrella. So, when they do specify, follow those specifications. When they don't, subject to interpretation. And I would be curious if Deb thinks the same thing. I would concur with Chris about center of stand. How about you, Miss Deb? You can nod if you don't want to come off of mute.
Yeah, when he said that, that's what my guess would have been as well.
Also, that's the easiest place to measure. I mean, if you're going to try and measure from the end of your light, that's to get that measurement straight down to the floor so you can measure out to Sherman. Somebody's going to boys' bathroom?
Vanessa is at a public school.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
But I would think that would be the most logical and the easiest to measure is the bottom of center post of your light stand, which is close to the floor, to the mannequin, which is also on the floor.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Now, there is a specification where that mannequin gets placed on the paper, so that may need to come into play when you're measuring.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, certainly if it has an instruction, I'm following it, to the letter, but in some cases it's a little more vague. And
You heard the ideas about marking where you put the mannequin and gluing and or taping your crayons and things like that for those 27 times you're going to bump the paper and move everything, right? Which you may also want to gaffer tape down your flooring, of course, not within camera, but so out to the edges. And none of those things are on the specifications either. Those are just from kicking the crayons across the room, or one of my candidates had some creature was coming in and taking the crayons. So
My cat loved that ball. It was just, all right,
Yeah.
would you leave it alone? I'm trying to work here.
yeah, so once you have them exactly like those images show you, and you really do want to follow those example images as closely as you can, mark them in whatever way you want, just as long as you can't see it. It cannot be part of the image you take. So putting something under the ball, tape on the far side of the crayons, using a pencil on the far side of the mannequin, things like that, right?
Yep.
okay, thanks.
And if
Good
any of these
start to
don't
the
work,
day
it was
there, Rick.
Skip's
I
fault.
appreciate that.
Take good care of my Sherman, Rick.
I will not mark anything.
Oh, I also
I
found
may
out, by the
mark
way,
something.
I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but we should have, or we might want to encourage participation in June, because I found out from one person who signed up for their exam and took it the other day at Texas school with 5 other people. So 6 people were taking their exam. If you want to be an IPC judge, you have to be a CPP.
Good move. In the
Yeah.
right direction.
So if you know anybody who is at that level and is maybe considering judging, I don't know if they're aware of that. I hadn't seen that.
It sounds like it's a new specification. It used to be, they had to be master.
Right, which they are.
Is that a new specification? And is it going to be retroactive, or are we going to have a whole bunch of master photographers taking the exam and doing their Sherman images?
Well, 2 of the 6 that were sitting there were doing that specifically for IPC qualifications.
So
and one of those 2 is the one that brought it up.
That's the case. Okay.
I was expecting a third, but for whatever reason, that person didn't participate this time around. May have already done it by proctor. I don't know.
Very interesting. I like that move. I like that move. That's a very interesting move on PPA's part.
John's got his hand up.
Whoops,
can't hear you, John, even though you're not on mute.
There you go. I have an off-topic news item. As of today, PPA membership now includes replacement cost coverage for your equipment. So they made the change from what, in my opinion, very poor depreciated value, which really meant you needed to get separate insurance. But now up to $15,000, even international, is covered at replacement cost with a $350 deductible and a $50 deductible for repairs. So I just happened to be on the very moment of renewing my insurance coverage, and I had gone elsewhere to find lower prices actually, but this means now I may only need to get the liability and other business insurance. And
yeah, I'm glad about the flat deductible as well.
So I know that's off topic. Pardon me.
Benefits.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I tell you, there's a lot of newer CPPs or newer people that are thinking of declaring, that are seeking the value, trying to find out the value of PPA other than getting their CPP. I have a candidate here in the Michigan area that we are working very hard on relaying that. He's a member of a local affiliate, and in fact he's on the board of a local affiliate, but hasn't done much with PPA, and we're discussing the value of PPA, and that's a huge thing that we will relay to him.
Yeah, the old scale on the deductibles was a mess as well. So it's good that they changed both policies. No pun intended there.
My understanding is
if we have to do anything to get it, or if we're just members and already signed up.
Done deal. Grandfathered.
In your My PPA, when you go to benefits and insurance, it will say whether you're already activated or not, because you do have to opt in. They can't just give it to you because it's an insurance policy. You do have to.
I think you might also have to submit a list. Is it possible you have to submit a list of your equipment?
No, it's
only if you buy optional coverage.
Got it. Yeah. Got it.
And when you do
also
submit
secondary coverage, so if you have any other policy which may cover you, that will be the primary claim. This would only be secondary. Business insurance is normally primary. Pardon me.
To what you asked, Chris, if you want supplemental coverage above and beyond the 15, you submit a spreadsheet to them. They'll tell you what that's going to cost you, and you pay for it annually.
Nice. Nice.
Hold on to your spreadsheet because you won't be able to see it online. So if you're trying to remember what did I cover, what did I not, you go to your own spreadsheet. They just tell you, here's how much. Just had to do that yesterday.
Well, I've got a spreadsheet with all of my equipment already. This may be.
They'll ask for serial numbers and all that.
It does not have serial numbers. I need to put serial numbers on it, but I use it more of a checklist for going on location.
Yep.
Because I'm such a squirrel about leaving equipment lay around, and where oh crap, I left that in the studio. I need to go back to the studio and get my camera.
Yep.
So yeah, I use checklists. I'm a big proponent of checklists, and so I just finally made one that had everything on it, and I check it out when I leave and check it back in when I leave the location.
So answer me this: how do you have a serial number on a softbox or an umbrella, or do you number them yourself?
You need to have a serial number on that type of equipment. They're going to be looking at things like lights, bodies, lenses, things that already have serial numbers. Really expensive tripods have serial numbers. Back in the day.
And Mia, some of the soft boxes will have serial numbers, but they do not cover umbrellas.
Well, of course not. I could see that they don't do that.
Yeah, there's a few.
But
things
anyway,
they do
I
not
caught
cover.
I caught the video and listened to it. And what I like, beyond what they're offering, what they said is that you don't even necessarily have to have a purchase receipt. Because like if you buy off of Amazon or through somewhere, you don't always get a receipt. Maybe you'll get that B&H sends you that
Confirmation.
it's a sticky thing, and it just tells you that you bought it, kind of, it's like a sticker thing. And I've kept all of that stuff, so I have all that stuff. And I was like, that is so cool. All you have to do is, if you have some kind of proof that you bought it, you're good to go. And I was like, well, that is just amazing.
Yep. Some of us have a lot of our equipment based on previous employer agreements. And so they actually purchased the equipment, but it was in, for the intent for me to keep it. And I am using that equipment for my business. Now, I didn't qualify for any type of tax write-off. However, it is something I need to insure because I own it for my business. So life gets interesting when you're a photographer of 20 years. So
I don't want to stray too far off topic, but I almost, and I will say this because they're doing a huge filming here in my little city today for a pilot coming out. And I was about 3 inches away of being able to get a set pass to be able to take some stills. But then again, this union thing of camera still photographers stepped in my way, and I didn't know there was such thing. So I learned something today, and how there's another avenue for photographers that you can work on sets if you can get your, qualified into that arena.
Yeah, I have a good friend who has lived all over the country and living a very comfortable life, and that's all he does. He takes those stills that they wind up using in posters, etc., and he has the benefit of tremendous lighting. So some of his images just blow you away, and you go, "Hey, I saw that movie, or I saw that poster." But yeah, he's, I don't know, probably in his late 60s, early 70s now, and made a lifetime out of it. Some pretty cool stuff. Name a name, and he's met them.
Yep. I love it when you get to use the big guys lighting.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. I was in an area in Virginia. I was in an area where we had some pretty high caliber football teams, high school football teams, and ESPN does a Friday night high school football night. Well, they don't rely on the school's lighting, so I got to photograph a couple of ESPN football nights, which takes passes, and you got to sign agreements, B-roll. You can only use B-roll video if you're using video and whatnot that way. But it was incredible the amount of lights that they would bring in for their production, above and beyond, even if it's a good stadium lighting situation. And it was awesome to be able to photograph on a Friday night with good lights and not have to wait to schedule a football game on a Saturday during the day.
Yeah.
But let me add to that is I did this via email, and I used my little logo thing, at the bottom. That's once you become a CPP, you get to have all that for your email. And it's amazing how far the word certified professional photographer will take you, because my emails went all the way to the production manager, which is, a company somewhere that I'm not really sure where they're at yet. I looked it up and I didn't get a location yet. But it's all over the internet for, movies and stuff, what they're filming here. And it's not the first time we've had a lot of it. But I also made connections with the city, and, making connections with your city and your local area when stuff is happening is, often a really good thing, because they're going to say, hey, let's ask so-and-so,
Yep.
document what's happening in your local arena.
Yep. So I'll make sure we're keeping on track and opening it back up to any candidate for their questions. This is an interesting conversation. We can continue it if we don't have questions, but I want to make sure we're doing what our purpose is here, which is to answer candidates' questions.
Lawrence, what is your status? Tell me about you. Hello?
I'm not seeing a Lawrence, Skip.
I got a
Yeah,
Lawrence.
he's down at the bottom.
Something.
Wonder why I'm not seeing that.
I don't know. Why you aren't seeing it? I'm seeing you. He said he's declared.
8:55 before I joined. I was the second person, so I don't know if he's listening.
There we go.
Spoken since.
It says he's declared.
I had to show non-video participants. Thank you, Skip.
That's all right, Guy. Anytime, buddy.
So I can go ahead, and we did have a question. Ann post when she did our Facebook post this week. She did post a question. I have to go through all my windows to unbury it. We can kind of talk through this. Here's a sample question from the CPP exam. Why are flat diffusers used on a meter? And the answers from the test are, you're choosing from 4, to measure the light reflecting off the subject, or B, to measure the light coming from multiple light sources simultaneously, C, to make comparative measurements of light reflecting off of the subject from multiple directions, D, to make comparative measurements of light coming from specific directions. So light reflecting off a subject.
Can you throw that up on the screen?
Maybe.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I hadn't seen it before. It took me a minute to figure out what they were talking about, but I did.
It also is interesting because it's not what, if you look up on a Sekonic meter, for example, none of it's what they say.
Yep. That's why I say it took me a minute to think what they were talking about.
Yeah.
One of those answers is very similar to what Sekonic says,
yeah.
But now I've got myself kind of messed up here.
We can see it.
Yeah, but I can't see it.
Oh.
Oh, there we go. All right. So we're right here.
Yep.
Light reflecting off the subject, light coming in from multiple sources simultaneously, comparing measurements of light reflecting off the subject from multiple directions to make comparative measurements of light coming from specific directions. So when we're working with a multiple guess question, we always say that we can eliminate 2 answers. Who wants to try and eliminate one of those answers, one of our candidates?
I think first, Chris, we have to talk about what is a flat diffuser. No?
I tell you what, while you have that thought, unless Chuck's doing it, are you grabbing your dome there, Mr. Chuck? Yeah, Chuck's going to show us. Oh, you got the inexpensive one. Does that one even go flat, Chuck?
I think it's got a clip on that you can, that comes with it. Is Chuck speaking? I can't hear him.
He's on mute, and he just broke his light or his meter. Just kidding.
This is the flat disc.
Got it.
As opposed to the domed one that we normally use.
Yeah, so the one in his left hand is the one you lose quickly.
Yes.
Well, on the other meters, if you pull the dome back, is that not the flat diffuser?
Yes.
Yeah, it's what you rotate.
And that's what I wanted to talk about, so everybody understood what that was.
I'll be right back.
Yes, that is exactly
You're gonna
what
get a
that is.
different
When
meter
you
there?
dial your dome so it's below the surface, it's not just for storage. It does serve a function.
So can
I
one of the
recently
candidates
found that
say
out.
what the difference between a flat and a hemispherical dome regarding the measurement of the light?
When it's flat, it's more measuring, the best way I can explain it, like it's more like spot. So it's measuring, like if it's in, then it's measuring the light that's coming to the subject, versus when it's out, it's measuring all of the light around. And more when it's in, it's more like it's trying to get like a definite measure.
Does that help us with the questions? Does it
You
eliminate
use the word
questions?
directional?
Yeah, so say if
Thank
I
you.
have a subject in front of me and I'm trying to measure this light that's coming to the subject. So I'm going to get more of a definite reading when the dome is in, because it's not picking up the other light that's surrounding me,
Right.
the surrounding light, the ambient light, or other light. When the dome is out, then it's measuring all of the light, all of the available light, I believe.
Guy T has his hand raised, and I've lost mine. So if someone can tell me also when someone else raises their hand. I only see 5 people at a time right now.
Okay. And Deb, let me ask you, those tips and tricks that everybody learns as they take these exams, there's a couple of questions or a couple of answers that we know to be wrong. And a couple of those questions share the same key word. Mm-hmm. So think about, what is a meter doing that your camera's meter can't do? What is Chuck's meter, or the meter I'm holding up, what does it do that your camera cannot do? When you try to eliminate at least 2 of those answers.
Right. You're going exactly where I was going, Guy. First thing we got to talk about is there's 2 different kinds of meters. Mm-hmm. Which kind of meter are we working with?
A reflective meter.
What type is this? Other than Sekonic.
Other than
yeah, these are not what your camera
Oh, wait,
does.
wait. The camera is the reflective meter. So that's an incident meter.
Correct.
So the camera has the reflective meter. So basically 2 of the answers that has reflective, so we can eliminate probably A and C.
And we pick anything from the top shelf, pick anything you want from the top shelf, pick anything you want.
Seems reasonable to me. So that leaves B and D.
I would say it's D.
D as in David?
D as in David.
So before we answer, I just have one more comment. So by eliminating those first 2 answers, the remaining 2 answers are now alternatives. So that makes me feel that we've done a good job so far, because those 2 alternatives are opposites, and it's really testing which of them you're going to know to pick. Mm-hmm.
The reason I said D is because it's measuring a specific direction. So if I'm trying to measure this light that's in front of the subject, and it's a flat and the dome is in, I'm trying to measure the specific direction that this light is coming from onto the subject.
What do you think, Rick, and wasn't there someone else? Oh, Lawrence, Rick and Lawrence. Did I get that right?
Don.
I agree with D.
And what was your reasoning for agreeing with D?
Well, it's pretty much the same as what Deb said. You can eliminate A and C because those are both referring to reflective light and you're using an incident meter. The second is B is where you'd be measuring it if the dome were out, because it's going to measure multiple light sources simultaneously. So in is only going to be from whatever direction you're pointing it towards a specific light source. So that's why I would select D.
And it's only because of your leadership, Deb, that he agreed with you.
I don't know about that guy.
I was trying to give you something there.
Thank you. Anyway,
thought-
but trying to make
I
you feel
thought Deb
good.
did a very good job of analyzing the question and answering it.
Yes, I agree.
So could you use a hemispherical dome on a light meter to measure directional light?
Ask that
Say that
again.
again,
I couldn't hear
John.
you well.
So could we use a light meter with a hemispherical dome to measure directional light?
Okay, I just pulled an aneurysm with that word. Where are you going with that one, John?
Well, I'm
Tell me
thinking
more.
you don't have if you have a light meter that doesn't have a flat diffuser, can you still do the same job?
Gotcha.
Can't you just
I
retract the
believe you
the dome?
can. It's go ahead, Rick.
Can you retract the dome, or are you saying one that has a fixed dome that does not retract?
Well, either. So for instance, my one, I can take off the dome, and the light meter now is only has a narrow angle of light coming in. So you were right, that's one way. But what if you couldn't take off the dome? How could you measure light from a specific direction?
You can block the direction of the other lights.
Yeah, and that's actually in the technical image evaluation.
Well, Jamie does.
So
You
because
could
you've got
not
multiple
take that
lights.
dome off and have it do the same job as a flat diffuser.
Well, it might not be entirely the same, but we can block the light, as Deb said, so that we get light from only one, or light from the one particular direction that we're trying to meter. So some people, well, I'm not going to say what I was going to say because you figured that part. I'm not going to give any of the game away. But sometimes you don't have the right equipment to do the job, so you have to improvise. That's where I was leading with this.
And Mia put up a question. Do you want to say it or just someone to read it, Miss Mia?
So I said, well, let's take this a bit further and ask which one would you use? Which way would you go on your Sherman images for those who are embarking on that next step?
Meaning which meter or which
dome in, dome out? Yeah.
Dome, flat. Which way would you go?
Flat.
Candidates? Anybody?
I would do what Jamie does. Those of you who watched Jamie's videos, what does he do?
He blocks the light with his body.
Which is not what I did. I turned my other light off.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing that you can do with some triggers.
The question is, did I use the flat or did I use the dome?
I would think, Mia, you use the flat because you're trying to measure more accurately and not all of the other additional light that's around.
Well, there was no other additional light. So for me.
Again, thanks to Deb's wonderful leadership, I agree with her answer. But that actually leads to another question I have. As I recall in the video, Jamie said to extend the dome, and I really did not understand why you would do that. He did say to block the light, but I think he also said to extend the dome, and
that is correct.
Confused me.
Yes, and I followed that direction and was dead on with my stops. So, I mean, dead on and stayed dead on. I didn't have any problems with it, changing on me or whatever. But yeah. And that's why I asked the question, because I was like, huh? Wait a minute. That's not what I thought I learned, but we'll go with it.
So the manufacturer
blocking one light, it wouldn't matter whether you got dome in or dome out.
Right.
Because you're only going to have one light to measure.
Right.
And or if you turn those other lights off. So yeah,
Right.
I turned one off, measured that one, turned it off, turned the other light back on, measured it, turned it back off, turned them both on to get that final measurement.
So the manufacturer reasoning for a flat disc coming from Sekonic is if you're using the flat disc to measure, there are about 3 different scenarios. If you're measuring for flat copy art, if you're trying to, usually if you're using a copy stand, you've got either 2 or 4 lights coming from the corners or sides. And if you're measuring the center of the copy art, it needs to be right in the center. And you have the disc flat. You're on the same plane as your copy art. Mm-hmm. The second reason is kind of what we're talking about, is isolating specific lights in a diagram or in a setup without turning off or blocking the second light that's in your setup, or a third or fourth or whatever. So you're pointing it directly at the light that you're trying to measure. And then the third situation, now I just drew a blank on what I'm trying to remember. Isolating.
Overall exposure.
No, for overall exposure, that's the difference. For overall exposure, for, let's say, in the Sherman situation, you've got 2 lights. For overall exposure, you're dome out. You're metering all of the lights with that dome. So, the third situation where you might use a flat disc is if you're trying to compensate for a filter. You can do a filter, what we call adjustment, by dialing the flat disc down, or the disc down, and holding that filter right up against the meter, and that will give you what your filter compensation is, just right there in the meter. You won't have to do the math in your head, which I'm really bad at, to be honest. So, Guy T had his hand raised.
And I'm trying to type with limited typos verbatim out of the Sekonic guide.
Yep.
And so I'll have this in just a second rather than reading it to you. How's that work? Check your, I made one typo at the end, dadgummit. But that is verbatim from page 23 of the Sekonic 478, the popular one we had there a second ago. How they say to use the flat side. The only thing they say on extended is Lumiscare, well, they really don't say anything. It's not worth typing.
Right.
But what you see in the text is exactly what they said, except for that typo at the end.
So this is good to know. If you're doing the resurrection of old photographs, someone gives you a photograph and it's in bad shape, so you're going to have to photograph it in order to do it. That would be how you would get everything in place, because it is a flat piece of paper basically laying on something that you're rephotographing, so you can bring it back to life.
Am I the only person that's never heard of the terminology flat diffuser on a meter?
Yeah, they call it a lumisphere. But yeah, they say dome in, dome out. Yeah, lots of different things.
But the words flat diffuser kind of threw me. I realized what they were talking about, but I've never heard that terminology before. The meter Chuck's got, you got a 308, right, Chuck?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what that is?
Wherever it went.
Yeah, and you take the lumisphere off of that. You take the lumisphere off of that, where's the diffuser? In the terminology that we normally refer to as diffuser.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of a diffuser, I'm thinking of diffusing the light leaving something.
Yep. Yep.
Not coming in.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand, you know. Terminology just threw me, that's all.
The terminology, quite frankly, it's possible that it comes from a manufacturer that no longer manufactures meters.
It could very well
but was a tremendous light meter in its day, tremendous flash meter in its day, but you can no longer get. And I think it may come from them.
I have a question.
Yes.
Who wrote that question and where did it come from?
Committee.
I believe that it came from the test. I'm not positive. And Anne she is publishing our marketing now on Facebook. She came up with a question because I gave an idea for a different question.
Sure.
But I gave her the option to.
We'll ask Anne. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chris.
So I have a question back to what Mia was saying. So I know I'm not at Sherman yet, but why, if you're trying, or are you trying to measure a specific direction of light for Sherman, why would the dome be out?
Well, first of all, after watching Jamie's videos, I just followed what he was saying because, he was the guy that you're supposed to follow. But again, I scratched my head a minute and then I said, well, all right, I'm just going to do this way. I only had one light operating at a time. And then when I had them both on to get the specification tests, I had that dome out for both lights. So it all worked well for me. I guess you could try it both ways,
to be a little more frank with the answer in that question, it comes down to knowing your equipment, knowing what the specific purpose of each component on that piece of equipment is, and then from there, it's about technique that you've been taught and what works well in your business or your style of photography. I'm very similar to Mia's technique where I turn my lights off to meter individually. And that worked. It got me passing images, put it that way. So I wouldn't disagree that Jamie Hayes, his technique doesn't. I'm not going to say that Jamie Hayes' technique doesn't work because I've also worked with photographers that does that exact style of metering, and it works for them. So Chuck has his hand raised, and Rick.
I'm also thinking that with that flat disc on there, or the dome in, it's very directional. It's kind of like, consider that flat disc as looking through a cardboard tube. You only see what's directly in front of that tube. You don't see anything off to the side. And so with the flat disc, you have to be more accurate with aiming that meter to get the accurate reading from that light. Where if you have the dome out and you're blocking or turning off the other light, you kind of got to get it in the general direction, not exactly at the light.
Good point, Chuck.
Yeah, that makes
Very
sense.
good.
Okay.
And
because
That's how I
excuse me,
think of the
because
flat disc is, grab yourself a cardboard tube, because everybody has done it. We know that. Like at the telescope and look through it.
exactly.
You only see what's right at the end of that.
Mhm.
You don't see anything.
This isn't a telephone game, right? With a tube and you hear through it, Chuck?
Yeah.
With a string?
Chuck makes a good point because
Yeah, that's a good point.
Never mind.
Yeah, he makes a really good point because of the way you have to shoot Sherman. And then back to that original question the other gentleman asked about the 99 inches and where are you measuring from and directing, you know, where are you aiming that at the pole? Are you aiming it at the light? You know, you're going to catch all the light. So, you know, there's just all these little tiny nuances. But also we can nuance ourselves into a corner and be afraid to do it. And you just got to do what you've been doing. You know the answers. You're already a little conditioned to what's working for you. As Chris said, you know, don't nuance yourself into a corner either.
Right.
And with me,
Rick had his hand raised. Sorry, Chuck. Go ahead, real quick.
I'm just going to say, with me, my dome is always on there by default. So
right.
That's how I normally use it.
Right.
Yeah,
Rick had his
and
hand
I have the
raised
same
there.
meter that he has, and I just slide it over if I need to.
Yep. Rick had his hand raised. I want to make sure we're recognizing our candidates.
Just a comment about what you said about, you know, that you would turn the lights off, whereas Jamie just simply blocked it. That's what I would normally do too. And I started thinking in that presentation that he did a few weeks ago, one thing that he mentioned was that he's a high volume photographer. So I'm wondering if the reason that he did that was simply it's faster. It's a way that he can get through images a lot quicker if he doesn't actually have to turn it on and off.
Well, going back to old school and high volume, actually Jamie has a business that is high volume, but that's not his major business. He's kind of turned that over to some his partner's family. But when I was shooting high volume, we weren't using monolights. We were back in the day where we were using pack systems. We're using old photogenic pack systems. And to actually turn off a light in a pack system would increase the power of the other lights. So you had to keep all lights on at that time. So going back, again, it's going back to technique, what you learned, and knowing your equipment, why you would do something. If you have a monolight and you can turn it off easily, it may be out of reach and may take a couple of steps to do that. It's a pain in the butt. You're right. It's a pain in the butt to do it. But will I get more accurate or get accurate light readings by turning off the light? Yes, I will.
Okay, thanks. That helps.
Jack had his hand up.
Jack and also Guy T.
Actually, I didn't. I was actually moving.
Oh, okay. Guy T, you're up.
Hey, there's a couple of other comments right out of the Upton book about their verbiage on that. So maybe you can see where the question itself came from, because they're using diffuser, they're not using dome necessarily. And then in another section they are. So looked like there was 12 incidences of mentioning the word dome. Some referred to the word domestic because I didn't say only that word. But in the half a dozen or so that did refer to the meter itself, they kept using the same phrasing over and over again. So I could see where someone who created that test, that psychometrician who created the test, probably used the word diffuser to not be brand specific. Secondarily, on a lot of the triggers are available out there. If you're using some of the Paul Buff stuff like an Einstein or the new Westcott trigger for your lights, put them in the sleep mode. Because sometimes when you turn lights back on, they may not remember exactly what you just did, or you may have to pop them once or twice to get them back to the setting you had because they store that energy, right? If you use a Westcott trigger, you can actually just put them to sleep, and when you turn them back on, they're right where you left them.
Good point.
Handy dandy.
Any other questions? We're coming up in the last part of our regular time.
I wanted to make one comment about the insurance and your equipment.
Mm-hmm.
In case it's stolen, the police recommend that you engrave your driver's license number on your items that are of high value. And I did that for years. I've been a photographer about 60 years. So I used to do that on my gear, but maybe that would inhibit the resale value, and maybe the thieves have a way of just grinding it off. I don't know. But I engraved everything with my driver's license.
I ain't putting my driver's license on my cameras, that's for sure.
Okay,
I put it on.
to each
I
his
put it
own.
on things of value. My wife yelled at me.
If the police recover it, then that's your best chance to get it back.
Mia caught it. Thank you, Mia.
I ain't doing no engraving on my cameras or my lenses.
Yeah, I'm with Skip. I'm not putting my social security or my driver's license number on anything, for the basic fact that if it is stolen, now they've got a second thing that they can steal from me, which is my identity. So
Okay. Well,
I
this
haven't
goes
done
back many years, so maybe it's okay. That's fine.
A friend of mine had an idea that I've never done. I don't think he's even in the photography business anymore, but he would put itty bitty stickers inside battery compartments because the average thief won't look there. But you can go to a pawn shop and say, I'm getting ready to open this up. And before I do, watch what I'm getting ready to do. I'm going to tell you what number that is inside there. So you put your information on a sticker inside whenever you can, someplace where it's hidden from sight.
Yep.
Right.
I will probably sell all my cameras.
You can have your own identifying
lenses at one
information
time.
so the police could track it.
Right.
If it is stolen, how would you recover it? I think that's the central question, right?
I have my serial numbers.
Yep. Serial numbers, large equipment. You have the camera, the lens, most of that stuff. Even really expensive filters back in the day, they had serial numbers. I mean, so you kind of have to go on your own gut feel. I would say.
Well, that's what they told people
Even
for many
cheap
years.
light meters
Just
have
telling you. I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Chris, I agree.
Go ahead, Skip.
I agree with what you said, Chris, and I agree with that totally. But in addition, I'm not going to engrave my serial number or any numbers on a camera that I will probably sell someday.
Right.
That's the other point. Right.
Back in the day when I was selling cameras, there was opportunities from camera manufacturers, specifically Nikon, where I could buy a camera every 2 or 3 years, and buy it direct from Nikon, and I could buy it actually below what wholesale was on it, but they would engrave it. They would engrave it with a special serial number or naming on it, and then Skip's exactly right. When I went to sell it, that reduced the value of that piece of equipment.
Yeah.
I would just hope they never could find it and rejoice in my brand new toys.
Good point.
We're there. I'm there with you.
I was drooling at Texas School's trade show where they loaned you new things to play with. Oh man, there's some technology that I'd love to have, but not right now.
And the other thing to keep in mind, Steve, is we're in a time now where we're rotating through equipment so fast.
That's the difference. I was going to mention that. Back then,
we're rotating through.
Right. Back then, when you bought something that was the highest quality, you expected that it would last. But now it's not the same.
It's about time you parted with your 4x5 speed graphic, though, Steve.
I didn't hear you, Skip. Can you repeat that?
I said it's about time you parted with your 4x5 speed graphic, though, bud.
Okay.
What I got my original Pentax K2, and it's a killer camera. I could hammer nails with this thing. It still works, but
oh God, please don't hammer nails.
Anything that I bought.
Well, you could go old school
to keep up with the technology. That
I haven't sold any of my cameras. Okay, none of them.
If you're going to go to all the trouble to make a spreadsheet and serial number and all that, you could just go totally old school, and you could just take pictures of everything, and then you have a photographic documentation of what everything looks like and exactly how it is to you.
Well,
And
I've done that for years too. I always photograph everything. and keep
yeah,
that.
that's old school. That's
You
what
got-
we were taught back in the day.
and you
That's
keep
still a good
keep
idea,
Everything
man.
you own too.
It is. It is.
Still a good idea.
Insurance companies ask you to do that on your valuables for your home. So why not do the same for your equipment?
Right.
Of
Right.
course. Common sense.
So we're honoring our candidates. Questions coming up on, got about 4 minutes left in regular time. We will stay on for overtime if you want to stay with us. Anybody have any questions they want to pass on?
Rick, have you started on your images yet? Have you set it up and start taking any images yet?
I have set it up. My space is really tight to the point that even a few extra inches makes a difference.
Yeah, I
Hence
have
my
the same
question.
problem. Okay, sure.
I'm having to rearrange furniture, including some things that aren't easily movable, to try to get the space right. To get a setup where I can leave it. I don't want to do it it'd be no problem in the living room, but I don't want to do that and leave it up. So that's.
And Skip's not letting you use his studio?
He should.
He would.
Hey, Skip.
Plenty of room there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Don, are you a nervous wreck yet? Are you waiting?
Don should definitely hear this week.
Yep.
Right, Chuck?
What's that?
Don submitted last cycle and he hadn't heard anything yet. Should be this week, right? If I count the weeks right.
I believe so. Let me check the calendar real quick.
Don has submitted his images.
That was the worst 3 weeks of my life. Actually, twice.
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
Yes, but look at how much you
here
learned from it, Chris.
Tomorrow or Thursday, he should be getting an email.
There you go. Don, let me know, right?
It's always been the Wednesday or Thursday of the third week.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
log
close,
in and
pretty
check
close.
your thing too. You can log in
That's
and
right.
check your thing.
It was exactly that time for me, so Chuck was correct in my case. Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, Mia's got a good point too, Don. Thursday, I would log in to PPA and check and see if you're a CPP. There have been people that have been on the website before they got their email.
I've been checking.
You might find out you're a CPP on the website.
Right.
Yep. That's how I found out. I checked there first because I figured they were the ones in the know.
Well, guys, I get my first shot tomorrow, so I'm excited about that.
You got
Smart.
this, girl. You got this. You got Chris and all of us in your corner, so you got this. We're going to be sending you all the good mobile jobo through the airwaves.
You're talking about your first, you're talking about your
vaccination.
COVID shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
You going down to Ford Field?
No, actually, Henry Ford.
Oh,
Down
very
at,
nice.
Ford Place.
Yeah.
1 Place. Yeah.
Yep. I did mine at Ford Field. I liked how spread out it was.
So are
That's
you driving or walking, both of you, there in Detroit?
Driving.
Driving? No, so it's a drive-through?
No, mine is at the hospital.
Okay, you have to get out of your car. All right.
And do not drive through the hospital, please.
Okay. We have drive-through clinics here. How about you, Chris? What, you drive through or?
No, we had to park and walk.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't that big of a deal.
All
In
right.
fact,
My husband and I-
like I said, I liked how spread out it was. I didn't, I had plenty of social distancing, waiting in line, so that was good.
Mhm.
And the Ford Field is run by FEMA, so they got plenty of people, working and giving vaccinations. So it's good.
Just
My husband
recently,
and I did
the
ours. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, Guy.
it's all right. The other day, the Texas Motor Speedway that you may have heard about in your neck of the woods did over 15,000 vaccinations again. and has gotten to the point where they're actually completely caught up and considering taking it down.
Wow, nice.
So people stay in their cars, right, Guy?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
And my
that's
wife
how-
wasn't even having time to even fill out the forms they were handing her. I was like, wait a minute. 8 lines all going at once, over 400 volunteers. It was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, same. My experience too was amazing. How well organized people were, and how great they were. Really.
Where did you go, Steve?
I went to the Nike World headquarters, but I took a friend of mine out to the red lot at the Portland International Airport.
Cool.
And actually, I thought that the red lot was the better operation.
Yeah, the PIR
And the
was
second
doing
time
really
when
good.
they had it together at the Nike World headquarters, better. But the difference was at the Portland International Airport red lot, you didn't have to sign any paperwork. It was already done ahead of time. You just showed your phone with this QR code. At the Nike World headquarters, you had to fill out a bunch of paperwork, which I thought made it more awkward. It took more time.
We did ours, my husband and I, we did ours through Albertsons, which would be the Save On. And it was all online. So all the paperwork came to us and we pre-filled it out. And we just went in at our desired time, whatever time we were scheduled for. And there was no one there in that pharmacy area when we were there. It was just the general shoppers. And they said, just hang out for 15 minutes. So we shopped while we were doing our 15 minutes and headed home. So it was so quick, so easy to get in, easy to make the appointment. Got them exactly when we wanted. And actually both of our appointments, both times, was an hour apart because they were like at the lunch hour, but yet they did us both back to back because we were together as a couple.
Yep.
Well, as I told Skip a couple weeks ago, it felt like when I was inducted into when I was being inducted in the military, or anyway, it was quite an operation. Very high precision. Well run. Is what I meant by that.
Can I ask Guy a question, which is going to be important to me the week after next? What protocols did they use at the Texas school for this kind of thing? I've been told that I need to be vaccinated before I go to Mars school. I have, no problem, but I want to make sure I bring my vaccination record. Was there any of that at Texas school?
There was a lot of that. Spouses could not come along unless they had gone through the exact same thing as a participant, which is a change of pace. Because in the past, they had got them additional tickets. But we did, you had to have at least one vaccination or a clear swab test result, or what was the third thing? Vaccination card that you would actually, like they sent us out a jot form link where I took a picture of my vaccination card itself and sent that to them. So they already had that and knocked the lines down as much. Registration was broken into alphabetical. So not everybody was at registration at the same time. And my classroom that held 23 people last year would have comfortably held maybe 12 tops. One class that was over 30 people actually wound up using an entire ballroom because they took that very seriously. Gloves as you went through the buffet line, mask whenever in public spaces. Yeah, we took it very, very seriously.
Hey,
we did have some casualties, but they were not COVID related. One of our instructors.
I'm sure Mars is going to be very similar.
Yeah, one of our instructors went off site to teach her class a number of times, and on one back, she got hit by another car and messed up her left arm and her left leg, but still shot a wedding on Sunday. We had another who had to have her gallbladder removed. We had another one who had one of our
school. Did you get to do that, or somebody at school do that?
I didn't have my gallbladder removed. My week went well, but
no, I didn't know. Did somebody at the school do it, or did she go in the hospital?
Oh, no, yeah, oh, gotcha. Yeah, that was one of the classes about macro.
Okay. That's good.
But
Texas school sounds dangerous.
Don't go to any schools with him.
Yeah,
4 different
Texas
people went to the
sounds
hospital for one reason or
dangerous.
another. But the photographer who got banged up by getting hit by another car, her final night, Thursday night, she does this flame thing where she lights up steel wool and does these things where you see the circle, et cetera. Really, really cool. Somebody at a nearby apartment complex called it in. The police came out to investigate. And before you know it, she had continued her demo, including the police officers posing.
Yeah, I'd like to
So
see
they got
those
some
images.
pictures as well.
Guy, you better clarify. Four
Okay.
people. If 4 people went to the hospital, that's a very low percentage with the number of
Yeah,
people.
800 folks.
Yeah. So that's
And they
pretty
weren't
low
all for the same thing. And yeah, but it was exciting. One lady's blood account went berserk for some reason, but she was also working herself to death. And same thing with the wrangler who had to wind up going to the hospital, but he was fine the very next day. So.
Okay, so do you get your entry fee reimbursed if you have to go to the hospital while you're at Texas school?
That would be a Don Dixon question. I don't answer those questions. And no, nobody got appendicitis. It was gallbladder on one young lady.
Yeah. Thank you. I was kind of interested because I have not heard nothing from them.
We took it extremely seriously because, the hotel was adamant as well. They really set the rules. They, as a private hotel, could have said, nope. And we don't want to endanger a contract that has still got, I think, 2 or 3 more years at that same location. So we were doing anything they asked us to do.
Well, I will definitely bring my shot record with me.
Yep.
So, can't divulge anything right now. Hasn't been confirmed through the main headquarters, but look for some exciting news from PPA on imaging. It's going to be so super cool this year. Pretty sure that it's going to be in person based on the way our trajectories are going with numbers and everybody being vaccinated, but some cool stuff coming down the pike with that. There's Jamie Hayes alluded to some exciting news coming in about the CPP program. That should be coming down the pike soon. I'm not sure what that's about, but that's exciting stuff too. So, anybody got any questions, or we want to keep talking about vaccinations?
I don't have any questions, but I do have an event to share.
Okay.
Mary Fisk Taylor and Kira Derberry are doing, through their Get Your Shoot Together thing, they're doing a little quote unquote what they call a retreat, and that is in August. Maximum 10 people. So it's in Vegas, and it's incredibly inexpensive for the 2 days that is jam-packed with everything from Profit First and story branding and all kinds of stuff. And you get a headshot done by Kira Derberry while you're there, and swag and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, that's going to be happening. So you should go to their your shoot together and see more information about that in August.
Awesome. That's some
there's
good news.
Vanessa. How's Vanessa doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to know if I could we have an event. So I am the president of Metro Professional Photographers Association in Oklahoma City. We're the local guild, and we are having a CPP class in July, which will be taught by Chris Duncan out of
Lubbock,
Texas. It is July the 24th and the 25th, and then we will take the test that Sunday afternoon after lunch, after Chris leaves. Okay. So I don't know if I could say that here or not or whatever, but
yeah,
we're just trying to get the word out.
Just did.
It is.
No, you can't say any of that.
It's $209, and you can register at metroppa.com.
Nice.
So, and it's open to anybody. Chris did tell me that you do not have to take the class. You do not have to declare. However, if you do want to take the test that afternoon, you do have to declare. So,
does a portion of that fee go to declaring? Some classes do that.
No, that is just to pay Chris's fee.
Yep.
And Metro PPA does not get any of this. This is not a fundraiser at all. It is purely Metro's responsibility as a PPA guild, providing that opportunity for our members and anybody outside, anybody that wants to certify. So.
Yeah, I'm not Chris Duncan, but I'm doing mine on Saturday.
Do what?
I say I'm not Chris Duncan, but I'm doing mine on Saturday.
Well, good luck. Good luck. So we're excited about this. This is the first time that Metro PPA has offered this class. So we're pretty excited.
Great.
So.
I'm out. Gotta go.
All right. Thanks.
Good to see you all.
Have a good
Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Anybody else have good questions? Any questions? Last chance. Here we go.
See you later.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a good week.
Yeah.
Nothing photography related, but I'll be up in Michigan in first part of August.
All right. What part, Chuck?
Millington.
Millington.
Yeah, even the people who live there get that look on their face when you say it.
Where is Millington?
It's about 12 miles from Frankenmuth.
Oh, okay.
Oh, of course.
I was just up in Frankenmuth all weekend long with our board.
Yeah, that's a fun place to be. Yeah, I'm having a class reunion with a bunch of really old people I went to school with.
Well, look me up, man. We'll go have a beer together. Frankenmuth's an hour away. So
yeah, Frankenmuth is a great place. Matter of fact, I know I'll be going to Frankenmuth because a friend of mine owns a restaurant there, Tiffany's.
Oh yeah, I just walked right by it.
Yeah.
So there's a good vinyl store there in Frankenmuth too. If you like, if you're into old records, you can get old vinyl. They got some good selection in there. Used vinyl. It's probably one of the biggest selections I've seen in a long time.
And then, of course, it's a legal requirement that you stop in at the fudge store and buy stuff.
Fudge. There's wineries there on the main strip. Chicken. You got to get chicken. So, yeah, I gained about 5 pounds in one weekend.
All right, guys. I'll see 3 of you on Thursday.
All righty.
Thursday.
Bye.
See everybody Thursday.
4 of you. I forgot Mia was still here.
All righty, guys. See you.
Thursday.